Now let's look at employment trends. So employment change over time is one of these key things that we're, of course, very interested in. How has that industry changed over a time period? And we use generally things like 1-year time frame, 5-year time frame, 10-year time frame as some general rules of thumb for doing analysis. These Excel sheets use a 5-year time frame, and that's a good time frame to hit a large part of the growth of our economy and the business cycle from 15 to 20, to look at our regions and how they were changing over that time period. So the very first thing you want to understand is, of course, the actual change in jobs, the actual change in jobs between those two periods. And that is in that column, 2015 to 2020 change in jobs. So you're going to look at that and look at the industries with the largest increases and decreases in jobs, but also keeping in mind the total amount of change in jobs for that region. So for example, in this region, there was 16,000 jobs added over that 5-year period, and 2,700 of those were in manufacturing. So that's a pretty significant number. You also want to look at percent change, which is included, and that's just percent from 2020 to 2015. So over that big time period there, you have that change. Looking at the percent is good. Looking at the percent alone, however, is misleading. So if you look at mining, for example, it's well above the average growth for that region. The region grew at 4%. Mining grew at 20%. That's great, but you also want to look at the number of jobs that was 92 jobs out of 16,500, still pretty small. And so looking at that percentage along with the total change is an important thing to realize. A lot of times when I'm looking at a percent change, I am looking at the regional average, in this case 4%, and looking at which ones grew faster than that, and which ones grew substantially less than that as well. Now, there's a lot of reasons industries grow. There's regional aspects to it. There's also national aspects to it. And then there's some more detailed industry analysis that can help unpack that, but we're not going to get into that today. But it is a good concept to understand how does this industry change relative to all the industries in that region, and then looking at that in terms of the number of actual jobs. So next thing I like to do when I'm analyzing industry data is I like to look at patterns. There's a lot of information there, and so you could try to sort each row, but I don't like to sort, at least not initially. I like to start off by keeping things in the NAICS category. So I look at goods producing, such as agriculture, mining, utilities, construction, and look at manufacturing, look at those groups together. Then I'm looking next at retail, wholesale trade, transportation, warehousing, and following all the way down to services, healthcare, and so forth. So I like to look at it from that way because just in my mind, I can see the structure, a little bit of how the economy is made up there. Then I want to look at the total jobs there, because industries with the large jobs are obviously very important. So I'm going to look at those and look how they changed. And I also want to look at the growth and decline, those percentage changes that we looked at. I do care about earnings too, because earnings are important. Earnings are a large part of a local impact of an area. If you have an industry with 100 jobs earning 80,000 in earnings versus an industry with 100 jobs earning 40,000, there's going to be much bigger impact in that local economy on spending for those jobs that are in higher income paying industries. So I want to look at that as well. So one of the things I like to do is conditional formatting. That's something you can do in Excel. You can highlight those rows. You can tell it to conditional format, and it will give you a quick glance, green or red or different colors if you like, of what some of the change, what some of the different relative numbers are in this spreadsheet. So if you look at this one over to the right here, this table, this is one of our regions in the state. And you can see from 2020 jobs that there's really a lot of employment in a few sectors: manufacturing, retail trade, healthcare, and government. Also accommodations and food services is pretty large. Now, over that 5-year period, you can see which ones grew. So we have healthcare growing really substantially with 5,000 jobs. Accommodations and food services also growing. and manufacturing growing well as construction. So a lot of sectors that were growing pretty well. Some sectors like administrative support, not growing, actually shrinking in pretty substantially. And then information, finance, and so forth. Now, if you look over at the percentage change, you can see also that those ones that dropped substantially also had some drops in percentage, especially administrative support, 9% drop. And then if you look over at wages, you can see what were some of the higher paying wages. So utilities are always a very high earnings type of job. Not a lot of jobs in utilities, and you don't really expand that too easily. So it's something to know, but you're really not a lot of times doing anything with that information. But it's nice to know management of companies, headquarters companies are high paying jobs. And so you can note that healthcare, pretty high paying jobs, as well as manufacturing and other things. So all this together is helpful to understand kind of the change in this region's industries and how that all relates. And so I love to do conditional formatting to look at that.